This is the Native Stroke Show, episode 7. I am your host, Richard Kuptang, and our today guest is none other than the only Ehsaan Noorani. His contribution to the Bollywood music scene is quite immense, from Dil Chahta Hai to Baak Milkha Baak to many others. Welcome to the show, Ehsaan.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you very much.
How are you? How have you been keeping up with these days with the lockdown and the
Well,
pandemic?
actually, the first four or 5 months, I mean, I was literally just at home all the time. But I took advantage of the time by practicing and getting to do stuff which I don't normally do. So I took a lot of time doing practicing stuff, and then I don't know if you check, but I was going on Instagram live every night.
Yeah.
And which was fantastic. I came across so much talent on Instagram Live, especially from the Northeast. Actually, quite a few people from the Northeast, and I've always known that there's such good talent there. But a lot of them, especially Mizoram and all, they're so far away, and there's not much exposure, to people out here. Meghalaya, of course, through Rudy and people, people are exposed, but like Nagaland, and then you get even further, Mizoram. So it's been very, very enlightening to see all the talent from all over India and from the Northeast. And so that, so I did make the best of the time which I had. Now I'm slowly getting back to work, few days on, few days off, which is good, but in limited amounts. I mean, I'm just working alone with a keyboard player, and like Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy still can't come to the studio. So so I'm doing my thing, what I need to do, and it's kind of keeping me going.
And you also been keeping yourself busy with Procreate, right?
Yes. Yeah. I just upgraded to the new version, and I'm quite enjoying it.
Have you seen the work done by Seb Lester?
I haven't. No.
Okay, you should check him out, because he has been on the ad that iPad Pro, when it was launched, the ad on the ad, he was part of that as well. So the way he used Procreate is quite different from what everybody is doing. So
maybe you can send me a link or something, then I can check him out.
Sure. I will do that. And while you're mentioning that you've been going live on Instagram, I saw an article regarding your exploration on the Northeast. And just quick question on that. What are the states that you have already visited on the Northeast?
I've only been to Shillong, only to Meghalaya, and I've not been anywhere else. And I've always wanted to, from so long actually. But only last year did it work out for me to go to Shillong. I went for International Blues Day and performed with Rudy and people there, which is really nice. I would love to go to Nagaland and to Mizoram. I mean, I know so many musicians there now in the last few months, and there's this news channel called Northeast Live, and one day by mistake I got onto the channel, and there was a show that was just starting called Northeast Beats on it, which had mixed music from everywhere, and that's when I came across this song called Down That Road by an artist from Nagaland called Viriye. She's from Kohima, and she had a partner called Zaza, and the two of them did this song together. And when I heard that, I was just so amazed in terms of the how good the songwriting was and the production and everything, and so I got very interested, and I used to keep following that program. Came across a lot of artists, even from Mizoram, like now the band Aurora Records. I heard some of their stuff. Then there's a very good singer there called Mami Varte. She's very good. Yeah, and then of course I knew a singer. I mean, she was in Bombay now. She's gone back to Mizoram. I think she will come back eventually. She sang on a background score for Razi. Her name is Sangtei Kuptong.
Yeah.
So, that's why I asked you, are you from Mizoram, because of the surname,
Yeah.
So and then from Nagaland, there's so many other people like Abdon Mek, there's of course Viriye, there's a lot of other people, I can't just remember the names off the top of my head. But it's very happy to see that, there's such good talent. We've always known that the Northeast has got so much good talent, but they've never exposed, because just the way it is, I think geographically or whatever, but they've never got that exposure. So I would love for them to be heard by people. There's another there's another band from Nagaland called Moon Drip. They just released a single, and luckily, I know the guys at Spotify very well, so they called me up, asking me that is there anybody you think that we should put on the Spotify list, the playlists, because those playlists get a lot of exposure internationally.
Yeah.
So I suggested their name. I've suggested a few artists, and let's see, as and when they release stuff, I hope they get the kind of exposure that they should get, that they deserve, because they're so good,
And do you think that there is a barrier between the mainland and the northeast state with regards to the language? Because most of us don't really are not very fluent with Hindi and singing Bollywood songs, and we're not very well versed with that.
Yeah, I know that is there, but there's nothing really to stop anyone from singing in the language, it takes a little practice, because I guess as far as Bollywood's concerned, is, the accent and the way the words are pronounced, they're all very, very, very stuck up about that. But, on the other hand, there's also the local music, which, can be so much more promoted and combined, with thing. But having said that, there's so many musicians from the Northeast who are part of Bollywood.
Yeah.
Guitar players and keyboard players and all who are, here doing work, and people from Assam and, and places like that. But yes, I guess that there is that language barrier. There would be that Hindi thing, but which is unfortunate, because there's such good talent there.
Yeah, and mostly, back in Northeast, most of us, everyone is like self-taught, right? When it comes to guitar and everything, music. So, do you think that's one of the key that is missing there, or?
Well, actually, like the thing is that when I visited Shillong, I thought that people would just, when I'm talking to people and all, I thought they would just know me for coming and playing the blues thing, but then realized that all of them knew me as the Bollywood music composer, which I was kind of surprised, and then I started seeing that even once when I was at Calcutta airport. There was a whole bunch of girls who were from Nagaland who were going back to Kohima, who saw Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy and I, the three of us, we were at the airport, and they were completely gaga about getting photographs with us. And also I was talking to them. I said, I thought that Bollywood is not popular in the Northeast, for some reason. But apparently it is, So, so obviously because of media and because of the internet, it's all become very popular all over.
A lot of people might really want to know how... A very simple one, but how many guitars do you currently have?
Yeah, I've got over 30 guitars.
Oh God, maintaining that.
Yeah, but I can see you've got quite a few at the back there.
Oh yeah, those are just a normal one, I would say. Yeah, but I also know that you're quite an encyclopedia for a Stratocaster.
Yes, actually, I'm very, very interested in guitars. It's like a passion, to know about the guitars, about the Stratocaster, about Fender guitars, about Paul Reed Smith, stuff like that. And it's a passion, So for me, it's nice to live a dream, and I have a lot of gratitude for that.
And
guitars was part of the dream.
Yeah, and I heard you mention somewhere that in Mumbai, people used to come and ask you, Ehsaan, what is this? Is this genuine or not? When it comes to Fender.
Yeah. Well, actually, yeah, people do. A lot of people do ask me for advice, regarding the guitars and regarding buying it. Every day I get messages on Facebook and on Instagram that I want to buy this guitar. What's your recommendation and stuff? And I love to share all that because it is a passion, and I can imagine what someone is going through when they're buying, one of their first guitars and spending a lot of money on it. So that way.
I understand because it's an addiction, I would say, getting gears, and then because
I know gas. It's called gas, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Gear acquisition syndrome.
Exactly. Yeah, and the stage this year is going to have audition for all ages, right?
Yeah, well, if it happens, now I'm not very sure about what is happening about the stage. There was some rumor about it, but they haven't informed me yet.
Okay.
So I don't really know what's happening. But I think it probably won't happen this year because if they're going to include younger people, it's too risky right now.
Exactly.
And so I guess they'll wait. I know that Indian Idol shooting has started. So I don't know how it's going to work and what is the security and what is the, what is the precautions that they're taking. I'm pretty sure they're taking precautions, but I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, yeah. And I was going through some of your talk show and some of the videos that you were involved in. So you mentioned one thing that that really interests me. Like you mentioned, you need to take humility, and humility
Yeah,
it's a very important role, because you
definitely.
can't go out and say that no, I'm not going to play this kind of music, I'm not going to do this kind of songs.
No
And
way. Yeah, no way.
yeah, and you said that you need to be open towards all kind of music genre in order to be
Right.
able to pay the bills. So
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more on that?
Well, actually, it was a thing that was taught to me when I went to Musicians Institute. When I you talk to some of the best musicians there, and famous musicians who would say that you do the gig that comes your way.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you got two options. One is not to do it,
Hmm.
and the other one is to starve.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
So the thing is, for as a working musician, you should take whatever work comes your way. Now, I believe now, if you hear a song like "Material Girl" by Madonna, the drums on that is played by Dave Weckl, who's like a fusion drummer, a jazz rock, one of the most famous jazz rock drummers there is. Going there and playing nothing,
Yeah.
that's it. But he would do it because it's work, yeah. It pays the bills.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've got to do what comes your way. Like I did jingles, I played for films, I did everything. I played in a nightclub, for a little while and stuff like that. But you've got to do all that. A, it's an income. B, it's experience. This
Yeah.
experience that will always be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Because we did this nightclub thing. I remember when I was playing with Louis Banks, we did 1 month at a nightclub. And Louis Banks kept pulling out jazz tunes which I'd never heard of. So Carl Peters and I would be standing looking over Louis' shoulder at the book on his keyboard and trying to read the chart, while
Yeah.
playing. It was too much. It was something else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I can't. I used to begin with the staff notation, how to rate it.
Yeah.
In the beginning, I was quite okay, but I gave up because it was quite too much. Because somewhere it restrict me from playing, and it
Right.
almost hits the point where I don't want to play anymore. So I said I'm gonna not rate it anymore. But I know it's
Correct,
important, and you also mentioned that it's important to track down your heroes. Like for example, I listen to Buddy Guy a lot, and like you've mentioned, you have to understand who Buddy Guy is inspired, and
Right.
you have to track down that. Can you explain to
Yes.
me why is that important?
Well, actually, see, the thing is, like, I'll take an example of one guitar player for me who's one of my biggest influence. A guitar player called Robin Ford, who is really, really one of my biggest influence.
Yeah.
Now, the thing is, when I listen to him, of course, when I hear him, he sounds exactly like himself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one that you can compare him to. But the thing is that what did he do? He listened to B.B. King, he listened to Albert Collins, he listened to Mike Bloomfield, who was a big influence on him. Then he listened to horn players like John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis. So when you hear his playing, you will not hear anything that is from Miles Davis or from John Coltrane or from Charlie Parker or from Mike Bloomfield. But you hear that he's got a very unique style of playing. So the thing is, so then you go back and you listen to who he used to listen to see what must have been his thought process. How did he interpret their music in his way? That kind of stuff. So what I do is, like, I never really sit and work out licks. I jam along with those players. You put on their music and jam along with it. Suddenly you pick up a little lick and it's gone past, right?
Yeah.
And by the time you know it, you're playing it, but you're playing it wrong. But that element of mistake that you made in playing it means that you're playing it in your own way. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're interpreting it in your own way. So that's basically what he did. So the thing is that when you go back and you listen to these guys, now you can hear that Mike Bloomfield used a lot of chromatic notes when he played blues. He had a certain way of playing fast notes, He loved bending the sixth note, on a chord. Like he was playing an A blues, he'd bend that F sharp note. So you see, all these things is what's come into Robin Ford's playing, but he's made it his own, and he sounds like himself. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's very important, especially when you hear players like, especially fusion, like say fusion players, like you hear Scott Henderson, or you hear somebody. I mean, whoever you want to listen to, Pat Metheny. You go and listen to their things. They'll go back. I mean, Pat Metheny was very influenced by Jim Hall, and who was very influenced by Charlie Christian. So you hear all these things, and you can tell, that, it's once you get down to that root thing, which is the simpler form of the music that maybe your idol plays. You can understand where they took that simpler form and made it their own, and took it like 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
It's very good because what it does, it develops your roots, in a simpler way, and then you can take it and keep playing it till it becomes your own, and then you start interpreting those things your own way, when your own creativity kicks into it.
Yeah.
When you're not copying anymore, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's really interesting. And like for example, I was just listening to I forgot the name of the instructor. He was playing Brazen by George Benson.
Yeah.
And George Benson, when I listened to him, the name sounds very familiar, but I couldn't recall. And then after some time, I just realized that he was the one who was saying "Nothing Gonna Change My Love for You," which I used to hear my dad play.
Yeah.
So I never thought that he was singing that. Then it kind of later on fix it all together, put it.
Now the thing is, see, take George Benson for example. When you listen to him, you got to know that he is the biggest influence that he had was from Wes Montgomery. Now, when you listen to Wes Montgomery, you'll be able to tell where George Benson comes from.
Yeah.
Though George Benson doesn't sound like Wes Montgomery at all. But you see the thought process, where he learned the techniques of playing in octaves.
Yeah.
Where he learned certain kind of lines. That's all from Wes Montgomery.
Yeah, and for example, the Brazen, if you break down Brazen, for example, it was a very simple, catchy tune, right?
Yeah.
But when you listen to it, it sounds very complicated. But when you really break it down, it's just a normal scale that is being run through. But although, the phrasing and everything is different. But and in that note, do you think that in today's music scene, especially with the Bollywood and going on, do you think that the complex music is kind of taking the backseat and catching tune and all of those stuff?
Actually, that's true, because I mean, like today, even rock has taken a backseat, which is really sad. There's no new rock coming out. There's no new. I mean, though. Guitar players are doing pretty well, like people like Pliny and the whole lot. Guthrie Govan, all these guys, they perform quite a lot. And there's a fan following that they have, and they manage to sell albums. But yes, as far as complex music is concerned, I mean, there is still an audience for jazz and whatnot, but nothing like it used to be. I mean, like for example, Miles Davis and Herbie Hancock and all, when they released their music in the 60s, it was on the popular charts.
Yeah.
It was on the radio playing with whatever was playing then, whatever pop or Motown or soul or whatever was playing then, this music played with it, which is pretty cool, which is pretty cool. So, and those people made money selling those albums, Now, of course, the entire scene has changed. I mean, one is with the internet, of course, because everybody wants everything for free. And the thing is that pop is kind of taken over. And even though pop is very good, I mean, there's a lot of good music out there. There's lovely songwriters and all. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a shelf life which is very long,
Yeah.
Especially with chart pop,
Exactly.
You'd have songs, with whoever, I mean, like, I don't want to take names, but whoever. It comes and it's on the charts for like a month maybe, and then it's gone.
Yeah, and when you listen to the chart, everything sounds so similar, right?
Right.
So I think also, do you think that our attention span has really gone down, that we don't have?
Well, yeah. In fact, partly to blame is, I think, the way of listening to music now. Where like when we listen to music, and when like in the teenage years, a friend of ours got an album from abroad maybe, and first of all, we landed up with cassettes to make copies of it. But also, we sat and listened to the entire album back to back,
Exactly.
You couldn't, it was too much of a hassle to pick up the needle and put it on to the next one, next song. You went and listened to the entire album in its entirety. And it's the same thing with CDs.
Yeah.
Even with CDs, you listen to it fully. But now, in fact, I've heard people, when they get together and they listen to music, they're not even listening to the entire song. You listen to one song, you zap to the next song, and you zap to the next song. So that attention span has become very small, and I think the entire digital and visual medium is to blame for that, because everything is there at a click. You can click on this, you can click on that. I mean, nobody opens encyclopedias anymore. Nobody opens an atlas anymore. There are people who don't know what an atlas is,
yeah. And I think with the internet and whatnot that we are the options that we are given, I think that's like you mentioned, that's one to blame. And also the quality of music that comes out is also another thing, because it's so easy for anyone to launch themselves, right? Unlike the traditional way of getting a label and then you launch it. Now you don't need that anymore. You just record your stuff and put it out on YouTube, and then you can distribute it. So that in that way, there are tons of artists out there. Some may be good, some may be not good. So I think that is also one one thing to blame, because we don't get that kind of you need to really search for a good music to listen nowadays. That's what I feel.
Yes, of course. But having said that, there is a lot of good music out there. I mean, I've been listening to some stuff recommended by people, and it is very nice. But then that's not necessarily the most popular. But I mean, today putting out your music is easy, but monetizing it is a little difficult. In terms of making money at it. I mean, unless you're doing commercial kind of music where you're creating music which is going to be used for television, it's going to be used for different kinds of things which people do, but then that's a very small market segment,
exactly.
And to break into that is very difficult.
Exactly. Monetization is another thing too, that is quite difficult for every artist. And like we said, this having complex music, I'll just say complex music, because the genre and everything, there's too much to break down. So that taking a back seat, do you think it's coming back some down the line?
Well, actually, as far as trends go and as far as choices go, there's always things come full circle, and it just takes one song of a particular genre which catches somebody's attention and then catches the public attention, and before you know it, it becomes a trend again. So I mean, I don't know what that trend will be right now, but so far, I mean, over the last few years, it's just been pop, which has been very big. And in Bollywood, that way, luckily, we've been able to do many different styles of music, which we're still able to do, whether it's rock or whether it's dance or whether it's hip hop. You can still do that. But then even there have been trends, like cover versions was a big trend, in the last few years. And now we had a release, Shankar-Ehsaan-Loy, on Amazon called The Bandish Bandits, which is a thing. And, the most of the music in that is classical, Indian classical, and that's become popular. So, you know what I mean? So there's a trend. Anything can set it off, and before you know it can become a trend.
Exactly. And like you said, everything goes around and come around again, right? So
absolutely.
And the kind of equipment, like for example, with everybody is crazy about equipments, and I need to get that. For example, as a singer, everyone might think that if I have this particular mic, my voice will sound good, my voice will be better, and my production quality will go up. But in most of the cases, that's not the key.
That's not the case. I mean, you can buy millions of dollars of equipment, but the thing is that A, if you don't have a good song, and B, if you're not a good artist, you're not going to be able to hide that. Nothing can hide that.
So talent is the most important thing.
Talent and content. Your music has to be good, and the thing is that I come across a lot of demos of people, and even releases on Spotify and all. which I listen to, and maybe the song is good, the singing sometimes is good, and very often there are a lot of good artists too. I mean, I'm not saying that, but the production is very bad. You'd say that man, this could be so much better if it was done properly. So I think having just an avenue to release music easily like YouTube and the internet doesn't necessarily mean that you should shirk in any way on your quality.
Yeah, yeah.
You should always run it by people, and try and figure out, that man, is this good or is this bad? And more than anything, be a judge of it yourself, because it's so easy to be absolutely subjective about your own work and say that, I love this.
Yeah.
You're going to love everything that you do. But to have that capacity of saying that, no, this is not good and I think I need to work on it more, is really a big plus point and a big attribute if you've got that.
Yeah, that is important. And self reflection is quite important in that as well.
Definitely.
Yeah, because you as a designer myself also, you ended up falling in love with your own concept, and when the client said I don't like this, please change it, then you kind of get irritated by that, right?
Yes.
So similarly for every creative industry that applies. So I think you need to know yourself, but at the same time know your roots, and also know that there is always room for improvement.
Correct. Totally.
Yeah. And the Indian independent music scene is quite interesting as well. That's what I see.
Yes, of course.
And, do you think in today's world, do you think it's still required to have the major labels signed to you? Or
Well, actually, it all kinds of depends. I mean, I just think because the labels have got a lot of clout in terms of distribution, in terms of getting your music out to more people. Like if you release a video on Sony's YouTube channel, you're assured that it'll get so many views. But that yet is only views, But like I'm saying, but the monetization is the main thing, today. I mean, and today, the only way that most artists can make money is to play shows. Which is also difficult. And right now, of course, it's almost impossible because of the whole pandemic. But having a label is of an advantage. But with the right kind of marketing and if you can spend money to do promotions on social media, you can get your music out there to a lot of people, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to see a lot of money from it, because, streaming and all that, unless you hit huge numbers, you don't really see that much money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And streaming, it sounds very easy and then, tempting for all the musicians, but in reality, it's quite difficult to make money out of it. That's what I heard everyone is saying, like, especially
and not only us. I mean, not only people here, artists from all over the world, big artists, who've not made much money from streaming.
Yeah, like Spotify, they used to say that it's good for the listener, but not for the artist.
Yeah, well, actually, the thing is, Spotify and all have their rules very well set that way. But it's the labels in between that, have their contracts and all as such, that they take a big chunk of it away because of technicalities, Yeah.
And, people from Northeast, especially people who are really interested into getting into the real league of musicians, how do you think they can get through it, and what do you suggest they should do?
Well, actually, the thing is that, especially with things like social media and stuff like that, to form your community is very important, and the thing is that a lot of people have to work hard at doing it. It's not just something that you can sit and do. You've got to be at it practically every day. In fact, musicians say that's more work than actually creating the music. You've got to go out there, you've got to promote, you've got to make sure that there is some visibility of your work every day. There's and collaborations and that kind of stuff. So it's a lot of work, and I do see a lot of people from the Northeast doing that. But then also, I think, there's a lot more than that you have to do. And, maybe they've got to talk to the right people, and not just like the other day I was talking to the guitar player from Aurora Records. And I was talking to him that, man, that you've got to get more, you've got to get put onto playlists and stuff like that, with Spotify and with iTunes and, whoever releases your music. So that is very essential, to get those kind of playlists, and also that you get the visibility. Even one single goes out, you'll know that it's got so many thousands of views or whatever. And that like you say, you never know what can happen. If one song goes out and somebody picks it up in the world somewhere, anything can change,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, I think, like we previously mentioned, content is king. So
Yeah, absolutely.
I think somewhere down the line, I feel that because in Northeast, mainly what happened is that we follow the Western culture, kind of try to imitate that. So in the sense of music as well, I think the originality somewhere needs to come out.
Yeah, the originality, I think, is definitely more in terms of the way you approach your songwriting. When the emotion is correct, when the feel is correct, I don't think that it would even matter whether whatever language your song was in. I mean, like African music has made it big at a time. Latin American music is big even now. All over the world. So I think whether to be influenced by Western or to be influenced by, whatever, that doesn't really matter. But I think really what's important is to make sure that you have an originality and that you've got a soul in your music, which is really important.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just a little bit technical,
Yeah.
What do your signal change look like usually when you do your stuff?
Well, actually, when I'm in the recording studio, I mainly record direct, which I use an Axe FX3 and use that to plug into the board, and I get a lot of good sounds out of it. And and when I'm playing blues gig, like I've got a pedal board here which has a variety of pedals. I've got a couple of pedals by Strymon, which is like a timeline delay and a Mobius for the modulation. Then I've got an overdrive pedal which I like very much, which is made in Germany. It's called the Weibo Dumbledore. And do you want to hear it?
Yeah, that would be fine.
Yeah, so basically, it's this pedal which is made in Germany. And one second, oh God, I pulled the headphone out. Yeah, it basically imitates the sound of a Dumble amplifier, which you might have heard of.
Yeah.
And like if this is my one second, if this is my clean sound. One second. Yeah, okay. So here you go. That's my clean sound. And it's got two channels. So, I mean, when you put on one channel, it just gives you a light overdrive.
That's it, man.
So then it's got a second channel, which kicks in one more gain state. So it gives you a really lovely, warm, smooth. It gives you great, the dynamics are beautiful because you can really dig in. It's very chewy, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of fun.
And it can be it sounds aggressive.
Sorry?
It can sound aggressive as well, like you've played.
Yeah. As very smooth. Yeah, you can play like hard rock with it, if you want, but I mean, not death metal.
Yeah.
But so you can play that kind of stuff, yeah.
And if I'm not mistaken, Lakshya, was it right? There was a blues like kind of an acoustic. Is it Lakshya?
Oh, well. Yes, Lakshya. That had an acoustic blues.
Yeah, it was. I was quite surprised to hear that, and I look into it, and then I mean the usual suspect.
You're talking about You're talking about this.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just typical experimenting which we like to do, fusing styles and stuff like that. So that's. That happened on that song.
And do you get a lot of room to experiment when you work with big production like this?
Yes, of course we do. I mean, that's what's expected of us, at some level. So we really have a blast doing that, because they're saying that, you all add your thing to the song, that kind of thing.
And do you ever get like they for example, they say that you do your own thing and then later on they say I'm not really feeling it.
Well, actually, that does happen. See, because doing music for a film, it's a sum total of many people that you're working with, the director, producer, so it's got to work out for everybody, because, it's not like you're just doing it for yourself.
Yeah.
If you're doing your own album, it's a different thing. But if you're doing,
Yeah.
Song for somebody else, then you have to satisfy them as well.
Yeah. And it was really funny when you said, in one of the show that you were mentioning that you were supposed to be recording with the band, and
Yeah.
your guitar is in tune, but they ask you to detune it in a different way.
Yeah, in fact, when I was playing doing a film recording, and they were telling me that, no, your guitar is not in tune. My guitar was perfectly in tune with my tuner, so, but I was not in tune with the strings. And actually, the entire band in the films in those days, I'm talking about very early, like the 80s, they used to tune to the vibraphone.
Yeah.
The vibraphone gave the tuning notes for everybody. Now, if you hear the vibraphone itself, it's a vibraphone. So think about the name of the actual sound. It's not a constant kind of sound. When you hit a tongue, it's got a little modulation in it.
Yeah.
But for some reason, everybody tuned to that. So I wasn't out of tune with the vibraphone, because I was digitally 100% in tune.
Yeah.
So luckily, the guitar player next to me, he passed away last year, sadly. His name is Ramesh Iyer, and he was a very famous guitar player in the studios. He just whispered in my ear. He said, "Put on your chorus." So I said, "Are you sure?" So he said, "Yeah, just put on your chorus." I put on your chorus and say, "Oh, this is lovely tuning." Now, what the chorus has actually done is actually detune your guitar.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that was just what an experience that was. Yeah, I remember.
You might have quite a lot of experience like that while working in the industry
lots.
for such a long time. And
Lots, yeah.
And how was your experience with MI? And did you ever go back to it after your graduation?
No, I've met the professors and all quite a few times. Every time I've been to America, but I've not had a chance to go back to the school, and I believe a lot of it's changed completely from what it was like when I was there. I was in there what was there called the golden years, which were 1976 to 1985, and it was a beautiful experience. I mean, what do I say, to be in a school like that for a year with so many fabulous musicians. I mean, you're talking about musicians who are like top quality, and they're not even teachers, they're just students,
Yeah.
So you meet all kinds of people playing different styles of music. There were guys who were into country, into rock, metal, fusion. I mean, so you could be talking to somebody and learn something new from any of the students every day.
Yeah. And did you when you go in there, has your perspective completely changed, or it was like
Absolutely.
Oh.
Absolutely. It gave me so much of a wider look towards the music, and my main lesson which I learned from there is not to suffer from tunnel vision, to be able to do all kinds of stuff, so that you can be a working musician, and that was, so I went to every class. I mean, I don't know a lot of the stuff that I learned. I went to classical guitar class and all that, and I still can't do that. But I sat in on it. Just to hear, what it was like, and to get some knowledge of it,
And were you taking any I guess you were already at a very good level before you even went to the MI.
Well, actually, no, I was at still a very basic level now, and I could play some lead and whatnot. And but a knowledge of chords and harmony and all was zero. But I knew some exercises and all that my teacher had taught me. So that was of some help.
Then it would quite be a challenge to get there.
Yeah. And but luckily I kind of fitted in, quite well. It was a lot of information to absorb for 1 year, but whatever it was, it was good.
Yeah, and when you come back, it would be everything that you used to know would be quite a different perspective, right?
Yeah,
when you
because
come
the
back
thing
to
is
India.
that, what happens is suddenly at one level you're thinking about what you're playing, that, oh man, I'm playing an A7th, so I can play Mixolydian, I can play melodic minor, I can do this and all that. But the point is that when you stop thinking that way and it becomes part of you naturally,
Yeah, yeah.
then it makes it very interesting.